Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of our F1 career mode here on the channel. Hope you're all having a great day. Today we head to the third to last round of the season. It's Bahrain here for the double header as well. We have Bahrain today. Next episode we'll have Bahrain short on the way, which I can confirm. I've already got 100% length race set for that one, so I didn't screw it up like just the last episode in Japan with the Suzuka short where Lewis Hamilton has extended his championship lead. Today he could leave with more than a full race lead, really mounting the pressure on Valtteri Bottas here. As you see a look at Bottas before practice, dialed in, ready to go. He is going to need to beat Lewis Hamilton this weekend. Now mathematically he doesn't, but realistically if he wants to have a chance to continue to fight for his first championship, he needs to beat Lewis Hamilton this weekend. And all the focus of the season has really shifted now into the championship picture between the two Mercedes drivers, which we know will remain as the same lineup in 2021 next season. We had some recent news, of course, with George Russell being announced to Racing Point. We didn't quite know which car he was going to drive or who he was going to replace. We got confirmation this weekend. Unfortunately, it ended up kind of the way we expected it to in terms of some family favoritism, of course, as Aston Martin, Lawrence Stroll are going to be coming in 2022 after delaying the Aston Martin project due to pandemic and economic situations. But we know Lawrence Stroll still has a say in Racing Point beforehand. Well, Lance Stroll gets to keep his seat, and Sergio Perez will be losing his ride at Racing Point following this 2020 season. However, it's been confirmed already Perez will be headed to Alfa Romeo for 2021 alongside Robert Schwartzman. So there will be a brand new lineup at Alfa Romeo next season, with Robert Schwartzman replacing the retiring Kimi Räikkönen. Perez will replace Antonio Giovinazzi. We have yet to know where Giovinazzi's future is currently lining up, but that's going to be exciting to see at least what Perez can do. Obviously not the best ride, but it's at least something keeping him in Formula 1 as we come through into qualifying. A bit of a mistake there into turn number 1, as we would be okay though. We would continue on right here behind Lando Norris, actually picking up a bit of a slipstream from him and expecting to get through Q1 and Q2, but Bahrain, not my strongest type of racetrack, so we'll really just kind of wait and see how this goes as we come through the final turn and down this front straightaway. And it was a pretty competitive opening lap here in qualifying. We would come to the line and go P9, which is going to be enough to get us through into Q2. Bottas, Hamilton up at the top, and Magnussen, Giovinazzi, Grosjean, Russell, and Latifi all out here in Q1. Now jumping through into Q2, and yeah, I mean, I was pretty happy because I felt like that lap into Q1 wasn't perfect, so the fact that we were able to at least get a top 10 out of that made me feel pretty confident coming into my second lap here of the night in Q2. And around the final turn down the front straightaway, a bit of a moment there on the oversteer on the exit, but we're okay. We're going to come through to cross the line. It was P9, which was not enough. So I actually had to come back out and use another set of softs and make another lap where we would find only another about 10th and a half gain down the front straightaway, but that 10th and a half would be enough to actually move me up to P7, gain 4 spots. Myself and Ricciardo move through into Q3. Albon's out with Norris, Sainz, Kvyat, and Raikkonen. So a Red Bull out in Q2, not exactly what we expected to see. Now Q3, Daniel Ricciardo currently in P6. Now we know, of course, we're going to be teammates alongside Ricciardo in 2021. He has opted to stick with Renault. Both of us signed a 1-year extension, of course, and it really does look like we're going to be fighting for a ride against the prospect driver that Renault signed, of course, just recently, of Oscar Piastri, who will be moving up into Q2 next season. And I'm moving off the racetrack. Around I go. We're going to start P10. Not exactly what I wanted. Caught the curb and lost control of the car. Valtteri Bottas on pole position.
The stage is set for another enthralling race here in the Kingdom of Bahrain. A Ferrari stronghold in years gone by, but will they be able to add to their record today? There's no shortage of passing opportunities around the 3.36 miles of the Bahrain International Circuit, with the best at turn 1, of course, and then another soon into turn 4. 15 corners here, 6 to the left and 9 to the right, and we could see 1 or 2 flat spots into the tight left-hander of turn 10. Anthony Davidson is alongside me as usual for the race today. Why don't we start by talking about Valtteri Bottas? They need third or better to ensure they stay in contention for the championship. Outside of that, well, their fate is no longer in their hands.
The key now will be to keep in the right mindset. We've seen time and again that things go wrong if you just try and do the minimum. Not necessarily because of the pressure, but because it's different to your usual approach. They'll need to avoid that and stay focused today.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Verstappen, Charles Leclerc and Ricciardo, Gasly, Vettel, the Rainmaster and Alexander Albon, Norris, Sainz, Daniel Kvyat and Stroll. They've taken a grid penalty. Raikkonen, Magnussen, Antonio Giovinazzi and Roman Grosjean, Russell and Nicholas Latifi. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
We're ready to go racing then here now. It's going to be a two-stop night here in Bahrain. We're going to be starting on the soft compound tire, and you see a couple different strategies here. We could go medium, we could go medium hard. I think we're going to actually start with the, for whatever reason, the medium to hards was the one that was defaultly on, even though it's not the default setup. So I decided to go with that for now, and we'll wait and see. We could, of course, always put on another set of mediums later on if we feel like that tire will be able to hold on correctly. So some drivers have elected to start on mediums, of course, outside of the top 10, like Lando Norris and several others, as we are ready to go racing, and Valtteri Bottas has done his job so far this weekend. He's put it on pole position. He needs to beat Lewis Hamilton. Can he make it happen as we pull up to our grid spot and we get ready to go racing here behind Pierre Gasly, Sebastian Vettel there in front of us, and P8. It's going to be 5 red lights. We're racing here from Bahrain for the Bahrain doubleheader now, as we have not quite gotten off like we would like to, and Albon's up the inside, and we're gonna be 3 wide into turn 1. Someone's made contact, and there goes a winglet flying. That was one of the AlphaTauris. I believe that was Kvyat. Definitely it was Kvyat. As we are side by side with Lando Norris, we get past him. Very close quarters racing. Bottas leads over Hamilton. Perez is side by side with my teammate of Daniel Ricciardo. They're battling for the final spot, currently on the podium. Still yet to put a Renault on the podium this season. Ricciardo's been close. I've been close as well, kind of in France, but right now it looks like Perez is going to come out on top. Bit of a lock up there, and Ricciardo keeps it around the outside. Hold on, Perez clear. Ricciardo showing the nose. Is he about to make a Ricciardo-esque move? Yes, he is. Ricciardo fires it back up the inside in that number 3, but it's not going to be enough. Perez would be able to stay ahead there. Got the run off the corner. It's not over yet, though. Ricciardo's still alongside here as we head into the left-hander. Someone's got to give. Who is it going to be? It's allowed both Mercedes to run away. Ricciardo gets through into P3. The question is, how long can the Australian hold on to that track position? As for myself, we have settled in well here on this opening lap right now into the 10th position, just behind all these guys of Vettel and Albon and whatnot. So not exactly where we want to be, of course. P10, we can do better than that, I feel like, especially with watching Ricciardo up there running in the 3rd position. But we just need to take our time. We got to be patient. We should be able to make things work out pretty well, I think, here. Now is Gasly up there having a great run in P7. Bottas comes through to lead that opening lap here, sets the fastest lap, of course, right off the bat now, as we roll up to the back of Sebastian Vettel to the inside of the 4-time champion here. My favorite driver, of course. Is one of these kind of dream scenarios early in your F1 career where you get to battle against your favorite driver, and we're making it happen right here. And I'm leaving Vettel a lot of extra room, and kind of one of the critiques we've had is how aggressive we've been as a rookie and maybe not giving drivers a lot of room. But of course, I'm going to make an exception for Sebastian Vettel every time, and we make sure he's got plenty of room right there. But we get around him and we move up into P9. Of course, Vettel picking up his first win of the season last episode in Suzuka Short at his favorite racetrack. That was awesome to see, unexpected, but definitely making Ferrari feel better, I think, about signing Vettel to an extension for the 2021 season. Of course, not what happened in real life, but that's the best part about this career mode, is we can make our own story now. As we, of course, know, he will be alongside Leclerc next season again as we come to the end of lap 5, and I'm struggling here for grip, and I've actually dropped 2.5 seconds back from Alex Albon, and we are not far off of our pit window. The pit window opens on lap 6 to go into a set of mediums. I said, I'm struggling for grip right now. Let's pit right now. So we're going to come in at the end of lap 5, starting lap 6, pitting 1 lap early, and we'll get the mediums on now, so we're going to be the only one coming into the pits here, and yeah, we'll be putting on the medium compound tire on this 2 pit stop strategy. And we'll, of course, look to go up, maybe get a bit of an undercut on some drivers here and hopefully gain some good ground now. As we get the mediums on, we get back out onto the pit lane and eventually back onto the racetrack, and we'll, of course, be down here in 19th. Kvyat behind us, he was the one that damaged his wing in turn 1, so, of course, I had to make that pit stop to replace that front wing, as we are going to now just try to cook over the course of this lap 6 duration. As you look at the track map, Bottas has opened up a comfortable gap to Lewis Hamilton, and Hamilton's got to be feeling the pressure. Sebastian Vettel now has come into the pits, and he's the only one that pitted at the end of lap 6, so we're right to the back of him. He actually is able to come out in front of me, so clearly I didn't do my job there on that last lap of just getting back up to speed, because Vettel should not have been able to come out in front of me. We should have opened up the gap to him. Instead, he has opened up the gap to me. Vettel actually now about a full second ahead, as a bunch of drivers coming out of the pits now. Perez, Verstappen, Leclerc, Ricciardo, all included. Lewis Hamilton has just made his pit stop as well. Valtteri Bottas staying out. So Hamilton trying to maybe get an undercut to get him a little bit closer to Bottas, now feeling a bit of pressure now, as Bottas wants to be leading this championship going into the penultimate round of the next episode. Bottas makes his pit stop, and then through comes Gasly as well as others. As you can see, a bunch of drivers that didn't qualify in the top 10 that are on that one-stop strategy all up here in the mix as well, and Hamilton's having to deal with potential future teammate of George Russell in the Williams. He's going to pull out a line right now with the DRS assistance and pass him, but Bottas is already long gone. Valtteri Bottas has played his cards tremendously right here, and Hamilton is nowhere near his Mercedes teammate now, as we have passed Albon and Gasly, who are just exiting the pits. This moves us up to P14, but we've got a bunch of cars in front of us that, like I said, are on a one-stop strategy that did not make it into Q3. The pair of McLarens are currently staying out of Norris and Carlos Sainz, but you got an Alfa Romeo up there. You've got Haas cars. There's a bunch of cars that we're eventually going to pass. Williams as well of George Russell. So we're probably a net like a P7, P8, maybe P9, kind of somewhere in that general area once this all kind of runs its course here. As you can see, a bit of a stack up here from George Russell. I'm going to take advantage, lunge up the inside of Sebastian Vettel here, and we should be able to complete the overtake once again, leaving plenty of room. It's going to be a brief drag race, but we're going to win that one, and we get through into P13 behind Sergio Perez now, who's going to line up George Russell for an overtake here in the next lap or so. He's going to have a good opportunity with DRS, not right here, but of course going onto that front straightaway, and he would eventually clear Perez, and then he would clear Russell. I was also able to get by George Russell with the DRS assistance here. So now running in that, of course, 12th position behind the Mexican driver, and to follow P10 of Ricciardo, who would then eventually get past Grosjean, as they were battling quite hard up there in front of us now. Look at that battle. That's actually Ricciardo going after Max Verstappen, and he's been able to pass the Red Bull, so that's awesome to see right there, as the Renault is really looking competitive here tonight now, as Perez at the end of the lap is going to pass Grosjean. This might help me, because Grosjean, he's actually coming into the pits. Perez passed him, so he's got no DRS, and I've got DRS, so we've used a bit of overtake here to the back of Perez to the left. We'll pass him into turn 1. That worked out to perfection. If he would have just waited a few seconds and got the DRS instead of course, passing Grosjean, that's a pass that I was not able to make. So thank you, Perez, for not thinking long term there and allowing myself to make that overtake, catching that same curb I caught in Q3 that spun me around. This time I was a bit more prepared for it and caught the car, but we're P8 after everything's pretty well cycled out, but Norris comes in for his pit stop. So now both McLarens have pit. That puts us into P6. I believe the McLarens, they might have the pace to beat us though on the one stop. So I mean, you look at P6, we might end up P8, as Leclerc, Hamilton have now come into the pit. So Hamilton's making his second pit stop now, as Ricciardo and Verstappen are wheel to wheel into turn number 1. Former teammates, of course, now, and now here they are fighting hard, and Ricciardo's still in front of the Red Bull driver now. The Dutchman of Verstappen still yet to find the top step of the podium in this 2020 season, and he's running out of time. It's obvious it won't be tonight now, as that Red Bull just doesn't have the pace, as Mercedes, of course, has dominated this season, but they're not the only team that's won. Of course, we've seen McLaren and Norris specifically with a pair of wins, as Valtteri Bottas is now pitted. Ricciardo and Verstappen are staying out. We're going to come in and make our second and final pit stop of the night. Bottas is going to again come out comfortably in front of Lewis Hamilton, so there's not really much of a fight happening. We're going to put on the hards, and Sebastian Vettel, he pits, but he puts on mediums. Sainz, Norris, of course, they are on hards on the one-stop strategy. We really are seeing a difference in some strategies here, however, as this race continues to progress, but we come out in front, fortunately, of Alex Albon. He's on the hard compound tire, of course, just pitted a lap ago, and now we're gonna have a little bit over 10 laps of racing left. And as we are coming up on the back here, both of, or not both, but one of the Haas, one of the AlphaTauris, now these are cars we should be able to easily pass now, as Sebastian Vettel not far behind. But I think what's going to help us is I think Vettel is quicker, but we've got the opportunity to just rely on some DRS here. We have passed Perez, we might pass Ricardo into turn 1 who's exiting. It's close quarters, we clear him, so there we go. The undercut works against Ricardo and Perez. Of course, Perez, of course, was already behind us, but now as we come up to the back of Kevin Magnussen, we'll dive up the inside, lock up on the right front. Fortunately, we do avoid contact right there with 11 laps to go, and we get by him already into the top 10, and we know there's still cars in front of us that we will pass before this race is over. I think Gasly could be hit or miss here. That AlphaTauri has been showing great speed tonight. Under the lights now, Stroll exiting the pits will pass him. That puts us into P9. Raikkonen's up there behind as well. I believe that's that's Max Verstappen, who's made a lot of ground on Ricardo. Of course, they were battling just a few laps ago, but we've got Giovinazzi, he's already pitted, so yeah, it's Raikkonen up there in P7, so we know we're going to be able to get Raikkonen, and then after that, I don't think we're going to get anybody else. A pair of McLarens, they've got enough of a gap, and they've got enough of a pace. I think they're going to be okay. Bottas leads very, very comfortably right now into turn number 1. There's Lewis Hamilton a ways back, so Hamilton just does not have the pace tonight, and of course these two have gone back and forth all season long between who's got the pace to win the race, and it's usually not close. There's not really any battles between these two drivers outside of the opening couple of corners on lap 1. It just seems like it's one or the other that just has outright better pace, and right now it's Valtteri Bottas here tonight, and he picked the perfect night because right now, of course, on track to gain more points on Hamilton to keep his championship fight alive for at least one more round going into, of course, Bahrain short in the next episode, as we do get past Kimi Raikkonen with a bit of a lockup there, but that puts us into P8, and I feel like this is as probably far as we're going to be able to go. I'm really trying to hustle this car to run down Gasly, but of course he's on a softer compound of tire compared to myself being on hards. He's on the mediums. He's got just outright more pace than I do currently, so the gap really wasn't coming down. Ricardo's moved himself now into P9. Sebastian Vettel is lining up to pass Raikkonen, of course, former teammate there when Raikkonen was with Ferrari for all those years, but of course ended after 2018 when Leclerc jumped into that car for the 2019 season. Leclerc still looking for his first win of the 2020 season as we continue on. Of course, 2 wins to Leclerc's name so far to his F1 career as we continue to try and reel in Gasly, but the gap's opened up to 2 seconds with just 4 laps of racing to go. But those mediums are going to fade at some point. The pair of McLarens are continuing to fall down the order because they're on just older tires. Sainz has dropped to P6. Norris is actually still currently in 3rd, but I don't think he's going to hold on. I think Leclerc is going to get him, or Verstappen. But now those McLarens are continuing to fall back, but just I'm not close enough to them currently to be able to probably run them down. 4 seconds is a lot to ask. Now we do cut the gap down with 2 to go. It's cut down to 2.3, and we're running down Gasly, whose mediums are starting to fade as well. So there's still some hope here as we got yellow flags. It's Mercedes. It's Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton, smoke pouring out of the back of his Mercedes. It's race over for the championship leader, and we are about to witness a 25-point swing in the favor of Valtteri Bottas. That is huge. That's his 2nd mechanical failure of the season. He just recently had one in France and another tonight, and that could mean as well a grid penalty for the next race in the Bahrain short version, which plays even more into the advantage of Bottas, who just banked the quickest lap of the race. Final lap of racing, and everything has suddenly changed. in the championship, because the championship lead is about to go to Valtteri Bottas with just 2 rounds remaining following tonight's race. Now, as we have run down Gasly, Sainz, and Norris, but I just don't have enough to quite get there. We're close, but not close enough, and Valtteri Bottas rounds the final turn down the front straightaway, make way for a new championship leader. With 2 rounds to go, Bottas wins the Bahrain Grand Prix, takes the championship lead. As for myself, out of the final couple of corners now, P7 is what we're going to have to settle for. P7, P8 for myself and Ricardo. We beat Ricardo, which is great because honestly, he had outright more pace than I did tonight, but we were able to undercut him and then use traffic and DRS to help us stay ahead to the line. P7 for us, very, very ecstatic with a 7th place result. I felt like that was pretty well all I had tonight. Honestly, I think Ricardo had a top 5 car. It's just, yeah, strategy didn't quite work out for him. Lando Norris, driver of the day, but of course the big story is Lewis Hamilton, mechanical failure, and that is going to really change everything going into these final 2 races, the entire approach. There's a very high chance Hamilton takes a grid penalty going into Bahrain Short, and that's not going to be an easy race for him. Fortunately, Bahrain Short consists of a bunch of straight line speed, so there's a good chance that Hamilton could benefit from that, just trying to work his way through traffic. That's just assuming he takes a grid penalty. We don't really know what's going to happen yet, but it's going to be interesting for sure, because Bottas, as Hamilton has to watch him celebrate on the top step of the podium, reality sinks in that championship number 7 might have to wait another season, and now it's Hamilton's turn to respond going into Bahrain. Of course, fastest lap point goes to Bottas, so gives him 26 points now, as Hamilton dead last here in the Bahrain Grand Prix. We'll take a look at the standings. How about Alex Albon, only P12? Not a good race for the driver at Red Bull that got 1 win at the short version of the Silverstone circuit earlier in the season, signed a contract extension shortly thereafter to remain at Red Bull for 2021. 9 points the gap between Bottas and Hamilton, so once again, mathematically, Hamilton doesn't have to beat Bottas to keep his championship hopes alive, but realistically, he needs to do what Bottas did tonight and beat him if he wants a chance in the next episode. I'll see you guys then. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.